Afternoon. Good afternoon. Jackson, would you call the call to order and roll call, please?
Chair Kelly.
Here.
Vice Chair Herman is Board Member Rubble.
Here.
Board Member Zero.
Here.
Board Member Fayette.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have 12.
Great. Is there any comments about the minutes from last meeting? Did I get a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes approved. Any visitor communications today?
No visitor communication.
Great, let's get right to business. Westside Pump Station, Force Main, 90% engineers plan. Paul, you want to kick it off?
You bet. So this is a project that is in our work plan for fiscal year 24-25. We went under contract early spring, actually, to get our geotech work done. That took some time. We were able to get that done, get all the locates called in, get a full topo survey of not only the site, but the force main alignment as well done in the spring. So Harper Hoff was ready to go come July 1st. Ken Condit is the project manager on this and the lead engineer. And he has taken us through the 60% design. That was mostly to do with the alignment of the force main and the pump station site itself. And then when he took it to 90%, he started profiling everything. So we wanted to get out there 60%, make sure we had all utility conflicts accounted for, and depths of water lines, valving, sewer laterals, so he can snake that line through all the existing infrastructure through the alignment. So that was quite a bit of work that was done there. We got to 90% design a couple weeks ago. We provided some feedback, and then we wanted to get this in front of you guys, not to only bring you up to speed, but to get any review comments from you as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Ken, and he's going to run us through work to date.
Okay, well, I'm not sure how much of the background you're all fully apprised of. So just as real quick, right now, all of the sewage in your system flows to the Rope Street pump station in the northeast corner and is pumped to the wastewater plant. And the wastewater facilities plan for 2023 recommended that flow in this boxed area be diverted and pumped by a new west side pump station to, it'll actually connect to the same pipeline that gets to the wastewater plant. This avoided having to expand the Rope Street and I guess potentially other sewer lines. So I guess this is a little bit of a blow up of the Forest Service site, and the easement for the west side pump station is up in the corner along Pine Street. This is Pine Street here. And of course, the highway down here. And the existing sewer main, gravity sewer pipe, runs along the, I guess you have an easement along the boundary of the Forest Service property. So the easement's up here so we can intercept flow, divert flow from this 18-inch existing pipe and pump it into a new force main that'll extend south on Pine Street and east on Jefferson. So the this depicts the pump station is up here, Forest Service site, and then the force main will run south on Pine, east on Jefferson, and then connect to the existing pipe in Locust. So we're this is the cover sheet for the plans we're developing for both the pump station and the force main. And
Excuse me, Ken. Dane, do you know what a force main is?
oh, that's the pressure pipeline. Okay, and sewage mostly will flow by gravity in a gravity sewer pipe with
Pressure.
it's what we call open channel, but the pumps pump it into a pressure line. So it'll be an 8-inch pressure pipe.
You make water go uphill.
Yeah, so there's
We call it a force main because it has to be forced through by the pumps. So it's a force main or pressure sewer if you prefer that.
And I think another thing to remind us all of is this basin here, the West Side Pump Station Basin. We did some flow monitoring during the end of June, so we were able to capture schools because they're part of that basin, as well as large events. We had the Big Pondaroo, we had rodeo and Memorial Day traffic, and we determined approximately half of the flow in the city is coming from that West Side Basin.
Wow.
So, like Ken said, we're able to divert this basin away from Rope Street, which means we don't have to upsize Rope Street. And we just opened up 50% more capacity at this pump station for future, guess what?
growth boundary.
Yep.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I guess the area, what is it? Somewhere there's a couple hundred acres somewhere up here might be added to the north somewhere.
Yep.
And also, we kind of upsized the west side flows relative to the facilities plan to allow for the prospect. One is it seemed like flows were pretty high, a higher proportion than the facilities plan thought, that 50%. And the other is that I guess there's a prospect that maybe some development might occur there sometime in the future too.
So basically, all the wastewater is gravity flowed into the west side pump station. Then that's going to be pumped to the Large Street. Where's that? What street is that?
So all this gravity flow to the pump station, and then we'll have a force main that comes over and ties into our existing 12-inch pressure main, force main that goes from Rope Street up to the treatment plant.
Okay. There's going to be no laterals going into that, any sewage connections on that, or is that going to be strictly transmission line?
Just dedicated transmission line. Yep.
Okay. All right, I better go all the way back. Yeah, the existing pressure line from Rope Street runs along. I'll try to draw a straight line. Runs along Locust here.
Good.
So we're actually pumping right into that.
Well, you don't. I and I.
Right now, the gravity line, drops sewage into the system and it all flows all the way to Rope Street. And so by diverting that, you also free up capacity within the sewer system. So that this area that's yellowed will then no longer flow to Rope Street, but the whole rest of the system still will be pumped by Rope Street. So the plans, and since I guess this Forest Service is being developed now, they already put in some fencing and everything. So we're kind of having to dovetail with that.
Done on our field trip, the fencing on top of where this facility.
And it magically got moved the next week to where it should be.
Nice.
Well, good. Yeah. Well, sometimes I guess federal government, you have to coordinate a couple times to get them on board, right? I guess I'll just go over a couple of quick key features of the West Side Pump Station. Is we're patterning it after your existing Rope Street Pump Station with some key changes. it'll be what we call a triplex submersible, meaning there'll be 3 pumps in the 3 pumps in the pump station, and they're what we call the submersible type, meaning they are actually just installed inside a wet well that where the sewage flows right in, and they're sitting right down in the wastewater and pump it right out. That way, I don't know why that does that, but anyways, that way it you don't need a separate dry well. It's just a single pit, single well. A key difference from Rope Street is it'll have variable frequency drive, which allows for variable pumping output. So instead of the pumps just going on and pumping whatever their capacity is to pump, it will go on at what we call a minimum output, and it will only ramp up as necessary to pump down. So you can save a lot of power and save wear and tear on your motors by having these variable output design. The variable frequency drives will essentially, they're programmed to kind of have an idea of how much has been coming in. They basically remember how long it took to pump down last time and what the pumps had to be, what frequency the motors had to be operated at to pump it down. And so the programming in the VFDs, variable frequency drives, will help optimize power usage, as the manufacturers say.
Who's the manufacturer of the pumps?
Excuse me?
Who's the manufacturer of the pumps?
Well, we're patterning it, designing it around Flight, Xylem Flight. They are kind of the key. They're sort of the top of the line. They provide a very durable, reliable pump with a really high quality ability to avoid clogging. They have what all the sewage pumps are called non-clogged pumps, but some of them have better features than others, and the Flight are known for being particularly good at.
They're a good company. I agree.
And then obviously they're used in Bend and Redmond and Madras too, and so they're all over the place. And we're designing around their drives. They call them Smart Run drives, which have the programming. They call it the power optimization, and they also sense if the pumps are having to essentially draw more power to pump at the same rate. And so they sense if the pump's getting clogged, they actually can shut it off and reverse it and try to get it unclogged, and can do that multiple times. And they also have automated programming for trying to clear out the wet well as best as possible and trying to flush out the force main. So they have good features, and we're going to specify all those, and I think that gets you the best pumps available. Keep going the wrong way. So just a couple other items. There is going to be a fixed standby generator at the site it'll be outdoors in an acoustic enclosure. So unlike Rope Street, where it's currently inside, this one's going to be installed outside. And the pump station, of course, is going to be all automated with the program controller, and it will provide remote telemetry. So it's monitored remotely. The alarms are sent out to the wastewater plant and to whoever's on call, and alarms can be acknowledged, and some control can be provided remotely. And this will be done through the city's current internet service. Excuse me. So the force main is going to require about 4,500 feet of new pipe, 8-inch pipe, PVC, the same material as the existing one. There is ductile iron pipe at the site. That's pipe's good for the unburied service. The force main alignment south on Pine and east on Jefferson to Locust. And will connect to the existing force main, which is 12-inch. So then another 4,750 feet of pipe will then carry the flow from both pump stations. So one of the keys to having the variable frequency drive is the amount of pressure that the pumps are going to have to pump against will vary depending on whether or not the Rope Street pump station's on. So if both pump stations on, they're both using about 4,750, almost a mile worth of pipe. So the pressure that those pumps will have to force against goes up when both pump stations are on versus only one of them. And it all winds up at the same spot in the wastewater treatment plant. This is our site plan of the new West Side pump station. So Pine Street is off to the right there. And over here, and the existing 18-inch sewers comes right through here. So the whole pump station is supposed to be constructed while the sewer's in service. We're requiring them to build a manhole over the existing pipe while it's in service, which we've done before on other jobs. And then from that new manhole, the sewage will be diverted to a wet well that'll be underneath the building here, very much like Rope Street. So when they're all done and ready to put it in service, they're going to cut a section of the pipe off. There'll have to be some bypassing down, or it'll be shut down and pumped for a while, with temporary pumps. And then when it's all operating, the sewage will go diverted here, and then it'll be pumped out of the wet well through a valve vault and flow meter, and then over to Pine Street and on down. The room here on the north side is the electrical and control room, and on the south side is the wet well. Pump access room is what I'm calling it. So this tries to give you an idea of what we're going to do with the existing sewer. It runs in profile. You'd be looking at it running along about 12 feet deep, something like that. 10 feet. Oh no, more than that. Yeah, a little more than 12 feet. So anyways, when we're all said and done, this plan on the bottom shows that the sewage would be diverted off to the right instead of flowing straight through. So instead of it flowing like this, we're going to have them put cement grout, and a new channel that'll divert it. And if the new pump station has to be shut down, we're going to have a bypass pipe put in with a new manhole that'll just go right back in the existing sewer. Meaning that if it's shut down, this would just fill up and the sewage would flow back that way. That gives you a backup. So if the pump station has to be shut down or got fried by lightning or something, you could don't have to rely on the standby generator.
That's a really nice thing to have. We don't have the luxury at Rope Street. We have to have that pump station be able to function. Having that potential bypass is just huge.
How do you handle the potential issues with the existing gravity fed line having H2S buildup in it, or back up that line? Because you're gonna still be using it for your connections, correct?
There's still flow in that line. There's services hooked into it. So there'll still be live flow.
Okay,
It's going to require some additional cleaning.
Okay.
But the nice thing is we don't really have corrosive water quality, so we're not seeing issues with manhole degradation and pipe degradation. We're lucky in that
Okay.
respect. But yeah, we'll have to monitor that. But you got Hoyt's, you have the medical clinic, you have Habitat, you got Sisters Artworks, all those are going into that line.
Okay.
That'll still be gravity flowing to the east.
And what this manhole does is it allows you to, to clean it out as often as you need to and get access to it, so that we didn't just, close it off and have a buried section there. This will provide some access from each end of that section, because there's no flow in this for what, a couple hundred feet or something, few hundred feet. So, and it is pretty flat, so it will require some, what you can do is just shut the pump station down every now and then and flush it out. So once a year, once every 2 years, you can just flush it out.
knowing Paulie's gonna do it every 6 months.
Every 6 months. There you go. Well, that way you make sure, like, if you don't want any,
So my next question on the wet well is, I know this is a wet well similar to Rope Street, correct?
Correct.
And we don't have any odor control issues there?
No.
So
No.
we're looking at the same, fingers crossed, at this one too? What would, I mean, I don't know the answer to this, so.
We'll have less, actually, this one, just because you're closer to the source, right?
Yeah.
yeah, this is not a really long spread out service area. It's pretty compact with the schools and the commercial area and all those developments there. It's really pretty small service area. So yeah, it's similar to the Rope Street. One difference is the Rope Street, the sewage comes in at the end. And here we're kind of coming opposite the pumps, which is the way they recommend it hydraulically. And then, opposite the direction the pumps pump out. So there's a section view. This section A is looking that way. And that's this section here. So the sewage is going to come in, and there'd be, the liquid level will typically be up above the pumps, partly at least, and then it'll get pumped down and just gets pumped through this discharge line. And the isolation and check valve are here. Check valve prevents backflow. Isolation allows you to obviously take this pump out and shut this down, or take this check valve out and keep the other two pumps in service. And then we are going to have a flow meter in it, so that you have a flow meter at the wastewater plant that tells you how much Rope Street does now. The way it'll be is we'll have a flow meter here that'll tell you how much West Side is doing, and then the difference between the wastewater plant and this one will be what Rope Street is pumping. So your SCADA system can just make that calculation for you and then have a Rope Street output.
It would be nice to have one at Rope Street too. Then you can actually see what your loss is along the pipe too.
Yeah, we're designing kind of in tandem the Rope Street improvements too, so we'll be looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got 1,000 gallons less. Where'd it go?
So yeah, you don't want your pressure sewers to be leaking much. That's for sure. DEQ wouldn't be happy either. So there's just a couple of things I'm going to touch on with the I didn't do the whole profile of the force main, the pressure pipe, but it's a pretty flat run. There's not a lot of, especially along Jefferson. So we are having, there are going to be a couple of high points. So we are having some air release valves along the way, including one at the very end at Jefferson and Locust. I just was going to highlight really quickly the crossing at Cascade on Pine Street. We're going to have the contractor do a trenchless installation across so they don't dig it. That'll either be the old-fashioned casing would be jacked in, and then the actual pressure pipe would be pulled through the casing, or they may do an actual set up a drill rig, drill the oversized hole, and then pull back the pipe and connect it. That's what we call directional drilling, kind of like the directional drilling for fracking, only in this case you have two pits, one at each end, so you can pull the pipe right back. At the terminus, we're going to have a little vault with both an isolation valve and an air release valve, and that's going to that'd be right here. This is another high point, so I deliberately created a high point here at the end so we could have the air release valve there. When they're both in service, then actually air can work back up here and get out too if it's in the 12-inch. So we're just going to have to shut down the existing 12-inch here briefly, and they're going to cut it at 2 points, and we connect in a few pieces of pipe, including a Y that'll connect the new 8-inch into the 12-inch. And so from that point on, it could either be both pumps feeding into the line, or one, or neither. So that's another section that'll require a brief shutdown. So here, this is the photo that Paul just sent me with the new fence up. So the site will be in front of that little jog they put in. So they just got the jog in just recently, I guess. That's good.
Yep.
And this is a photo of well 4 that will have similar split-faced cement block in this brown color. So, and we're just going to match the Forest Service fencing, this 8-foot high fencing. So it'll come out towards us here and around and back there. Pine Street is behind us there. So that's all I had to just go over. If there's other things you want to ask about or talk about, we could go through things in more detail if you really want.
So what is the planned bid date?
We're looking at potentially getting it out to bid early spring. I mean, February would be ideal.
So working during the summertime?
They would be able to do the pump station work during the summer. That wouldn't be affecting traffic. And then potentially get some pipe in the spring before Memorial Day. But we'd have a Memorial Day to Labor Day shut down before they got across. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
When you do that, when you're on Cascade doing that underneath, is there going to be any disruptions to the commercial businesses on Cascade during that time period? Besides traffic with the construction?
We walk the alignment where we have the bore pits set up. We're not going to be impeding any access. There will be 1-lane closures on both sides in the work zone, but you'll still be able to get into Space Age, and you'll still be able to go southbound on Pine Street and get into the car wash.
Yeah, and that we kind of left these, I mean, because we're over on the on the west side, they should be able to get in here all the time and get right here. We haven't drawn up the details on the traffic control, but they should be able to keep both directions open almost all the time. And then here they'll have to have plenty of signs and flagging, because essentially you'll have to probably have people go one block over and around to get back to Pine. I don't think you'll be able to turn right on here all the time.
But as far as the bore pit area, we looked at that with Nicholas and our engineer, and we moved it far enough to the north, or to the south, sorry, that we thought that they could still have that access into the first driveway right down in here to Space Age.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that'd be good. You're right.
Can you do night work or anything?
Right.
Can I ask about the alignment for the force main? It kind of wiggles all over the place on,
On Jefferson,
yes.
it's really where existing water is. So water on Jefferson starts on the south side, and then it jumps down by the fire hall. It jumps over to the north side. So we had to basically try to keep our distance away from it. Plus, we wanted to minimize the amount of asphalt that we're going to be disturbing and repairing, try to run. We got an 80-foot right of way in there and only 24 feet of asphalt. So we got pretty wide shoulders that we can work in. So we're trying to take advantage of those, but there is a crossover that you see right between Ash and
Mhm.
essentially almost Spur, kind of 2 blocks in there.
Okay, no, I was wondering, it does kind of under around.
Yeah, it's just the way the water worked out in there.
Okay.
So time frame on that, on the 4th of July, you can have Jefferson torn up at that point?
No, like I said, we're not going to be doing any road construction from Memorial Day to
Chicken.
Labor Day, except around Village Green. We'll have that tore up.
You have it well, completely torn up. And obviously this is a disruptive project for the neighborhood. And I know that Jackson does a great job on his outreach program. I'm sure we'll reach out to people and let them know what's going on, like CNC, Space Age, the chocolate shop.
This is going to be the biggest project that we've done in Sisters since the sewer system went in.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
big project.
So it's going to be disruptive to the entire town.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Once we get up on Jefferson and get off of Pine, it'll be better. But that couple blocks in Pine are going to be a little painful. Yep. Good thing is we're not having to go really deep. You know, we're keeping the elevation about 5 feet. And so we're not going to be into, you know, a lot of hard rock. Should dig pretty well. And they're only laying 8-inch pipe, so it should go pretty quick. But they're very well when we start putting together the traffic control plan, some night work involved just to work around the business accesses. Yep.
Question, since we're talking about road impacts, what about fire department access? Like on the south side of town, what will that, like, as it's being dug through Jefferson and especially where it crosses Elm?
They'll have to keep Jefferson open. That'll be part of the requirement to local traffic. They could say, you know, no through traffic or something, but that essentially Jefferson will always be open for local access. It'll just be down to one lane, and they'll have to have, you know, flagger out there. One of two of their guys will be flaggers, and what they have to do is, you know, we make them inform the property owners along the way, and they'll have to coordinate. You know, they'll only be allowed a window for shutting people's driveway, you know, preventing people access to their driveways. And so they'll be required to kind of say when that's going to be, and then you know, limit each blockage to a certain period of time.
As far as fire truck access going south.
Yeah.
So they have two accesses into the fire department, one off of Ash
Mhm.
and then one off of Elm.
Yeah.
So obviously the one as we're going across Ash will be closed
Mhm.
going south. We'll get it at least back to Base Rock and drivable before we cross Elm,
Okay,
so they can still go out the back.
so they
and
get
go
one
south.
or, yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Uh,
And they're required to cover the trench when they quit each day too, so.
Rachel?
yeah, yeah, and traffic control is not done yet, but thinking about north-south access on Elm, like, especially seeing how many people are like going up to get their Christmas trees. It just like has a lot of use. So trying to pick the time that has the least amount of use, least amount of impact. No, because that's when all the snowmobiles go up.
That's right.
So it's like not on a weekend.
The good thing is
Yeah.
we got a lot of side streets that we can
Yeah.
divert and get people around, but
Yeah,
yeah, there's, without a doubt, we have to cross Elm.
absolutely.
Have you guys noticed a change in traffic flows on Jefferson since the
Absolutely.
roundabout? It's a lot lighter, isn't it?
A lot lighter.
Yeah.
Yep, and I get to hear about it every time my son comes into town, why we closed down the left end on Jefferson.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Like, just for you.
Yeah, just to save your,
Yeah.
to save your apps.
Yeah.
So Paul, on a project this large for the city, are these guys providing inspection services for you?
I will be doing the inspection
We're gonna be.
for it. Yep. Yep. That's going to be part of the transition in our department from myself as Public Works Director to Capital Projects Manager. So I'll be doing all the day-to-day construction admin in team with the design engineer, obviously. But the day-to-day out on the site will be myself.
You, that's gonna be fun.
That's the stuff I like. Absolutely.
So Paul, the whole project is $232,000?
Just design.
No.
And that's what I'm like, going, build two.
I think we're a zero there.
You need to add some more zeros to
Yeah,
that.
that's what I thought.
We're about, we haven't come in at final cost estimate, but it's going to be right about 2.2.
Such a deal.
I know, it's like, gosh, I think the pumps are more expensive than that.
And then we're also looking, since we are going to be doing an open dig for the project, we'll throw at least one conduit in that trench as we go, just for future fiber or anything.
Good
Yep.
idea.
Yep.
On your air valves, are they, on the current ones, do you have any issues with your current air valves at all?
No.
No?
No.
You do routine maintenance on them like you're supposed to do?
Yep. Yeah. Flush them out twice a year.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't get a whole lot of air in the line.
That's very
Which is good.
Good.
Yeah.
So tell us about your transition.
Oh, wait.
We're still
Should
working
we-
through that. Yeah, we still got some internal things to work through, but that is the idea, is Jackson would be stepping into a managerial role in the Public Works Department. So we're reworking that whole job description and what that looks like for the department, because it will change. And then it'll probably change, after Jackson gets in on what he needs for his operations. So whether we bring in, an internal engineer, or engineering tech, or, whatever he wants to.
Growing team.
Yeah. Yep. Exciting stuff though.
Congrats.
His eyes are wide open all the time. but it's great that he's getting to see things like this, you know,
Yeah.
UGB expansions and all those really long-range planning type projects. And obviously he was all the way through, you know, our water and wastewater master plan update. So he's got a lot of really good background in that as well.
Nice.
Just got to get through a couple budget cycles and those council transitions and, you know, all the fun things.
Hey, is this gonna have, back to the transmission line, is this gonna have any effect on any of the trees in the area?
As far as disruption with the
Roots and are we gonna?
we're trying to avoid that. We're pretty good. There's a couple areas where we're going to be, I mean, right at drip line, I would say, on Jefferson.
Yeah, there's a couple of really large trees that we tried to stay at least more than 10 feet away, but yeah, we're going to be within the drip line on a couple of them, but it's only along one side, so hopefully it's not too big of an impact for any one tree.
I'm just thinking I always think about what the boards are gonna be worrying about, the citizens, on what they're gonna get upset about. Obviously, traffic's gonna be one of them. Traffic flows, disruptions on that. And then if we harm a tree, that's a big deal in town, especially in that area.
I mean, the nice thing is we're only doing tree removals on the pump station site. I don't believe we have any slated for removal on the force main alignment. So, and we'll work with our urban forestry board on that. They're going to review these same plans. So.
Are there any other questions? Rachel, ask away.
Yeah.
Bye.
So since this is going to be an open dig on Pine and Jefferson, how bad is the PCI now, and what is it going to be like after we dig a big trench and fill it? I mean, and then like sort of the next question is, does that influence the paving plan? Like,
Great question. Yeah. So we're going to be right in that westerly travel lane,
mhm,
and we're going to do a full rehab of
Okay.
that entire travel lane.
cool.
What's PCI?
Pavement condition index.
It would go down if you had a trench patch all the way down a travel lane, and it could go down significantly over time just because
Yeah.
they tend to degrade. But typically when we go down through an asphalt section, we try to center it in a travel lane and then just replace all the asphalt in that travel lane. So it's all new. Question?
Back to the outreach question. Are you guys gonna do like a open house at like fire hall for all the people affected by it to go through that? Sort of like what the UGB is doing, just so that obviously all the more open houses that you have, the more information you give out, the softer blow it is to the community itself. That might be something to do if you want to do that. We could all show up and show our support on it, so.
No, that's a good idea. We haven't even gotten to that point of thinking about.
Because I'm just,
outreach
I'm
part.
thinking of all my friends and, that are gonna be affected by that. It's like, they better get a heads up on this. And then I want to calm them down first, they'll be crying, we can't drive on the road for a year. Oh, no.
That should be nice to have roll maps out and people could go to like right
Right.
in front of their house and put little sticky notes on just like my prize plant.
Yeah, It is, I mean, that's, actually, all the work that you can do is probably the easy part about it. It's how the public responds to it.
Yep.
And we just have to work with them to make it smooth.
And there's going to be a lot of education as well, kind of what we're doing here. Why do we need to do this? What is the benefit long term? How does this affect the city overall, including UGB expansions? So, yeah.
We don't get much from it.
One more question. So, because you were saying for the service area for the West Side's pump station, that's going to be like 50% of what's currently going to Rope Street,
Correct.
right? With the development of like Sunset Meadows, Woodlands, trying to think what else is proposed to be built out there. How much do you expect that's gonna like increase the capacity? Like, so when you turn on the pump station, how much extra capacity will there be for future growth beyond what's already planned?
So that's a good question for Ken. Ken, do you get that?
Yeah, the 650 gallons per minute is I think, I don't remember the number exactly on the flow measuring, but I think it's about double what we were getting in the flow. So it's designed with 3 pumps. So in the future, at the 650, 2 pumps would have to operate. But initially, only one of the 3 pumps will probably operate at a time. And so they have automatic alternating. So each pump won't operate as often until flows get up high enough to where more than one pump would come on. And that's where the variable output really helps, because then when 2 pumps come on, they both ramp down to their lowest allowed output, their minimum output, and they'll only both go up as much as needed to pump it down. So you don't have a lot of on off, but initially it'll just be 1 pump, and then at some point it'll start having to be 2. But the variable frequency drives will still allow the pumps to not cycle that often.
And that's sized based on the master plan and that 20-year outlook, or?
Yeah, plus we added an allowance there because of this. I forget your planner's name, but anyways, he was saying that there was some talk about additional development to the north of the current housing that's going in there. I forget what the name of the development is.
Section of.
McKinsey Meadows has an additional 60 acres above the 30 acres that got developed in the last 5 years. And even though it's not a priority on the current UGB expansion, just because of how it's zoned forest land, that it could potentially come in, they could change the zoning. And so we assumed another 60 acres of McKinsey Meadow up there under multifamily. So the other thing, Ken, can you pull up kind of a system-wide map, maybe your cover sheet?
Okay. Let's find it then. I can try. I gotta find, there's a share. Well, we'll do the cover sheet. And
So
then,
while Ken is pulling that up,
can you see that then?
yeah, that's perfect. Yep. So right now, we got the pump station going in here. Here's the existing Forest Service site. The Woodlands is right in here. So a portion of the Woodlands is flowing. We have the Barkley pump station right here at Barkley and Pine, which that has a pressure main that goes up Barkley and empties into the gravity main up by Sun Ranch, up by Fika. And there's a certain amount of houses that can get built in here before they have to make a connection and run the Barkley pump station over to this pump station. So it's going to be picking up these EDUs in here, which they've already run the pressure line all the way up through the existing Woodlands infrastructure. And so what that does is have 2 small package pump stations that pump into the Barkley line. And we have to have telemetry where they're not operating at the same time. Plus we start reaching design capacity. And once we pull one of those pump stations off, it opens up additional capacity for the industrial park as well.
In the time frame on that, couple years?
Well, as soon as we got to get the West Side Pump Station built first,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And then it's like at 130 something EDUs that they have to make the switch. And literally all they got to do is slice in a piece of pipe and cut a piece of pipe. And then it'll shift direction over to West Side.
And who's they? Who does that?
The developer of
Oh,
Woodlands.
cool.
Yeah, yep, they're on the hook for it.
So then you'll be able to decommission the Pine and Barkley pump station?
No, it'll still function as it is. It's
You
just
have more
not,
Capacity on it, gotcha.
it's not going into that 10-inch line in Barkley up by Fika,
Yep.
which is where we're having the flow restriction. Yep. Because all of Sun Ranch and Clear Pine comes into that same line, kind of up and out of the little hole that it's in.
Yep.
Yep.
Exciting project.
It's big. It's something that, yeah, I honestly didn't think we'd see this soon. No, I was thinking we were still 10 years away, but once we started doing flow measuring out there, it was like, oh, got a lot of water coming out of that west side. And just more and more every day. I mean, we'll have 2 or 3 of the apartment buildings going on next to, or going up next to East Portal online here within the next month,
Yeah.
6 weeks.
Banging it out.
Yeah, and then a lot of houses going up in Sunset Meadows. I mean, they're going up quick.
What do you want us to put a stamp of approval from the board for the council on this, or what would you like us to do, Paul, at this point?
I think a motion recommending to move ahead with the 95%, that which will be our next, I should say our next step is to take these comments, we've provided comments through our city engineer, take those to 95%, and then we'll send those out for permitting with DEQ and the county. And then that'll take probably several months to get through those permits. Then once we have that, we can come back and finalize. That's when we finalize all traffic control plans and type of deal. So
these are 90.
those are 90. Yep.
So do we have a motion on the floor to approve this 90% plan and send it to council?
We're not going to go to council.
Send it to 95%?
Send it to 95%. Yep.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Dane's got to run.
Anything you got for us, Dane?
No,
We're gonna get you out of here.
yeah, I appreciate it.
Nice job. Couple minutes to spare.
I was like getting a little nervous. I'm like, oh, man.
Casually put on his coat.
And if anything comes up, any, thoughts, we still have a lot of work to do on this project. Feel free to email them over to us and we can forward them on to Ken and his team.
I think the point about this being a really important story is a good one because, nobody ever wants to talk about sewer, but it's such a basic, important service
Mm-hmm.
and finding a way to, celebrate the importance of this.
Yeah, and especially, we're lucky to have a fairly new system
Mhm.
with fairly large pipes, bigger than what we needed for many years. So, we don't have a pipe out there that's running more than half full, even if it's got a pump station attached to it. And so we're keeping away from the issue of having full lines, surcharging manholes, all those
Yeah.
fun things when you got bigger cities and old infrastructure, undersized infrastructure.
Air valves blowing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. That's, it is, we do, Lori, we do have to celebrate this. This is a big deal.
Mhm.
It's a real big deal.
It is.
When was the last time you put in a pump station?
Since probably 2006. Yeah,
Big deal.
yeah, and big investment
It's a,
for the city.
it's
It's
big.
a lot of money.
But it's what it avoids, what we avoid, the cost reduction on it by doing it now, when we can do it, when we've got land, we can actually dig the road. It's a big deal. So
Yeah.
How does, the Three Creeks departure, how did that benefit the system?
Our BOD is cut in our biological oxygen demand, basically the strength of our wastewater, got cut in about half. And we were always pretty low. We were running 200 to 300 parts per million, and now we're running about, I mean, we're seeing as low as 115. And we think it's attributed to
Sure.
the brewery operations. Yeah.
and also when we get the replacement, we could actually charge for water too, don't we?
Yeah.
They have a sweetheart deal from the city to get their water.
It was actually sewer, and that agreement got voided last week.
Oh.
So it went on for 90 days after they last produced. And we hit that 90 days, and actually Wade signed a release on that agreement. So it's no longer in effect.
So if another brewery wanted to come in there, they'd have to pay.
They would have to renegotiate if they wanted that was an economic development agreement. Basically, they got 30% off of their sewer rate. Yeah, and in exchange, they had to make some capital investment at our treatment plant, new aerators, bigger aerators. So that's kind of where the give and take was, but it's part of what kept them here in Sisters versus in Redmond. But to have another brewery going in, they would have to renegotiate that with council if they wanted to.
See you, Dave.
All right.
Thanks, Dane.
Thanks.
Any updates you want to provide to us, Paul? I mean,
Sure.
you have a whole ton of stuff from our last meeting.
How are you guys doing on time?
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Okay. So a little update on East Portal. We're about 40% complete. We got all the subgrade work done, including all of the water, sewer, and electrical in. We got all the base rock in place for the majority of, well, all the paths. And then we got, they brought it within a couple tenths of final grade. You can see a pile of base rock there that they will use to kind of regrade everything when they come back in the spring to pave. We got about 90% of the curbing in place. So it's ready for flat work if they do get some weather where it thaws out. Right now it's frozen. They can come in and start doing sidewalk, the main area, staging area for the bus departure. That could all get poured. All the electrical infrastructure is in and pretty much ready for lights and bollards. So we got all that in place. And then the contractor mowed out, and he's planning on just watching the weather and mowing back in as soon as the weather allows. And then obviously we'll be paving in spring. And then there's going to be a time period where, you know, as the mobility hub starts working and getting used, where we're going to want to interact with you guys, with the Parks Board on what does directional signage look like? What does wayfinding look like?
Great.
Where do we want bike fix it stations? You know, kind of the frosting on the cake,
Yeah.
you know, so that'll be kind of fun for you guys to work with that. Cause I think there's all kinds of exciting opportunities for this. I mean, it's not just transit. I think that's a very small portion of what it could be used for the community. You know, EDCO can work with Black Butte Ranch and try to take those trips off the road with all the kids working out there in the summer. My daughter worked out there for years, you know, going through college, and that's such a horrible drive. It's one of the most dangerous sections of highway in the state. and make it, more affordable for not only the ranch, but the kids too and the parents, if you could have some, at least park and ride, if not, some shuttle services between there, Camp Sherman. Obvious CET is going to be a big player. We got buses coming to and from the valley that are going to start using this. The multimodal is going to be big. EV charging, parking, bikes. Maybe we get to start a bike ride or a bike rental, bike share, blue bike program like they got in Bend. We'll have to see.
We'll have to see on that one.
We don't want them in the creek. We don't want to find them in the creek. I think it's there for, we're just basically building the canvas, right? So it can be whatever we want it to be. And it's a great investment for the taxpayers and especially for our local taxpayers because they're paying virtually nothing for it. Since we got stiff funds to do this.
We have to remind them that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
More celebration things.
More celebration things.
Yeah, yeah. Barclay, we just got signed contracts back today. We are working at revising a couple easements. CEC thought we could go to one spot in the corridor to get our single phase power for the streetlights. We have to actually jump across the street. So I'm working with the property owner on getting an easement for that. And looking at starting construction right after first of the year, depending on how the weather looks. So that'll be fun. McKinney Butte, if you guys haven't been out on McKinney Butte, please drive through. A lot of work's been happening. We hit a great weather window. We're basically 90% done. We have the crossings done at Arrowleaf, Wheeler, Brooks Camp, Trinity, and Fremont. We really just have the McKenzie Meadows speed hump to do in the spring, and then we're done with that project.
Great.
So, and then Pine and Hood four-way is complete.
Yep.
We're getting ready to issue the request for proposals for the landscape design at the Locust Roundabout. We're excited to get that going. It's again such a huge area that I wouldn't say we have to fill, but we got to strategically think about how it looks, being an entrance into our town. We put in the proposal or the request for proposals that the landscape architect works with the adjacent property owners, including SPRD, the gas station, High Camp, the school admin, throughout their conceptual design.
So will that do not only the roundabout, that'll hit around the sides and the humongous stormwater facility
Yep.
as well?
All that
I want
area.
that to be full of water.
I can't wait to see it. I'll take my boat over to.
Launch the SS Minnow in it.
Yeah, the geese will find it.
Yeah. You can't get me started on that.
Instead.
Yeah, we got a lot of area on the north side of the multi-use path in between that and the fence for SPRD that they're going to be very interested in how that area interacts with what they're going to be doing. So yeah, it'll be a really cool project. And then they went back out for a second call for artwork. The art committee that's formed for the roundabout specifically just didn't get the wow factor from any of the submittals. So they put it back out, went farther with their advertisement. I think they went all the way back to maybe not the Midwest, but at least to Colorado, I want to say. Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, just try to get as much entries or ideas for them to look at as possible.
Just so you know, so Bend has been approached by the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and one of those new roundabouts, I think maybe the Roball one, so like the one closest into
Sure.
Bend. I think they're gonna be coordinating with the tribes on design for that. So luckily it won't be the ugly thing that ODOT left, but
Right.
I just thought it'd be interesting for you to know that there seems to be interest from the tribes and that it was very, Bend now has a partnership relationship with the tribes. And that was one of their top issues to talk about was roundabout art.
Cool.
So.
That's great.
I don't know if they'd contacted you guys.
I don't know. I'm not part of that process. Jackson is.
I believe there was some recommendations from the committee on reaching out to Warm Springs. I'd have to check with Carrie on whether or not that was done.
Okay.
I do know we cleaned, Carrie cleaned up the language to be a little bit more specific because there were some indigenous related artworks, but they were a little bit vague, not specific to those of the region. So they were reworked a little bit, trying
Oh,
to be a little bit more.
because there's such interest now in Whitechoose Creek for the tribes, right? So I didn't know. I just, if you need a contact, just let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. I think working with them, even through the landscaping as well, interpretive signage, whatever, I think would be great. You know, they did do a little change to the theme of it, from, they went more away from Western to Western and
Western heritage and culture
of the area.
of the area.
Yeah. Yep. So there's opportunity there for sure.
I was the one voting on creek-related things, but you know, I'm a water person.
I was too.
I'll be
Yeah.
honest that a lot of us did get a letter saying, please reapply with new idea.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
And you repaired the horse?
We did. That was another curveball that we got. The horse got out of surgery last Thursday.
Yeah.
And we had it home that same day. Surgery went great.
You do it at Ponderosa?
We have, I think, the best fabricators, not only in our region, but potentially statewide. Ponderosa's amazing.
you can't tell anything.
That's
Really?
great. I'll have to check it out.
And they had to completely replace the lower fibula area. Because it had gotten dented in and they had to buy some equipment to be able to do it. They don't do a lot of bronzing, but they are so talented.
Wow.
It's just, I was so worried that we were gonna have to truck that thing over to Joseph or somewhere where, you know, somebody with bronze expertise. These guys got it.
Yeah,
They
I
nailed
would
it.
have to go to Joseph.
They are so good.
So are you
Cool.
getting insurance to cover that?
So our insurance will be dealing with it
No big deal.
because they didn't have insurance.
No,
Oh.
of course not.
And
So we'll have to pay the deductible.
but it cracks me up. I drive by that and it's like the IHOP that got their sign knocked down in Bend,
Mhm.
that one. And I'm like, how the hell did they get up there and get that?
Right? To aim at it.
I couldn't do that in 100 years.
It's crazy, and it is the second time. And so we put some decent sized boulders around the base of it and tied them into the base because that base is the size of a Volkswagen Bug. I mean, it's huge. So hopefully that'll keep them off the horse. Because the last thing you want them to do is to break that thing and then have it fall into their, you know,
Yeah.
cab.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So biggest thing is just keep them off the horse and they end up wrapped up on a rock, then, you know, it's below their windshield.
Yes.
Yeah. You just never,
I'm never surprised at any of this stuff anymore.
I know. It's
Well, it's
amazing.
like the guy this summer who flipped his car. I
In
mean,
the middle of town. Yeah.
yeah,
Broad daylight.
That's a public works guy. He's the public works manager at the city of Newburgh. His name was so unique. When I saw it in the paper, I had to give him a hard time at the APWA conference.
What the heck happened?
It was a moment of distraction, he said, and it just somehow, I mean, you talk about the perfectly bad scenario where how do you even do that, right? Hit that car.
I had to
you're going
ride
like
up on the
10
car a
miles
little
an
bit
hour,
or something. Yeah.
and to flip, I guess it was a Honda Pilot, which I think are pretty tipsy, but,
Mhm.
It was
see.
hilarious. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on?
But then I saw the name and I went, I knew that guy.
So a couple other things, we are going to be installing some enhanced crosswalks on the on the alternate route. One right here,
Great.
crossing over to East Cascade,
Oh,
and then one at Pine and Barkley.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Great.
good.
Yep.
Yay for that too.
And we'll have our first rapid flashing beacon. Are they rectangular rapid?
Rectangular rapid flash.
RRFBs.
RRFB, yeah.
My first one.
Stupid name.
In town. We just saw the initial design from the Woodlands. They still have to get ODOT approval, but it'll be great for East Portal.
Those are great.
So it'll be crossing right where Sisters Park Drive will come out to Highway 20. And it'll go across
Oh, fantastic.
the north crossing of Hood and Highway 20.
Cool.
There'll be a center refuge island and then the RRFBs on both sides.
Oh, that'll be great.
Yep, it'll be good.
But it'll be your facility, so you'll,
It will be. Yep, yep. So we're gonna be dealing with ODOT maintenance on an MOU for maintenance on that, but we're not gonna go down the road of solar powered. We're gonna make them actually hook into an electrical service. So it's pretty
Good.
treed in there and you're gonna want those things working 100% of the time. So
yes.
that's the direction we're gonna head with it. And then that's another thing with this mobility hub is you have the Woodlands right there. You got 80 units of apartments right across the street. It offers options to people. Maybe they only have to have one car in their two-person family.
Well, that's all they allowed for in the design.
Unless they all start parking their extra cars over there.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Need to think about, some video cameras. Yep.
Yeah, that will probably happen.
I know, I was surprised when I read the design on that new spot on Larch and Adams where they're gonna put the Habitat homes or,
Yep.
and it's one car per household they're looking at. And I just think that's a disaster. Because all the stuff, I was looking at that demographics thing and they go, oh yeah, the Sisters is definitely a 2-car per household,
Oh, yeah.
you know, if not 4, you know? And so I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just gonna be so crowded over in that area.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm sure they'll be taking up parking on Adams for sure.
Are they gonna, with that being done, are we gonna require them to do that? Well, we had a
The
project.
frontage improvements,
Yeah, frontage improvements, part of the urban growth,
urban renewal plan.
urban renewal plan in
Yes.
that area.
So that's really, once we get this phase of Barkley, I think council could potentially focus on the Adams corridor
That'd be nice.
and start allocating more funds towards it. Whether we do it a phased approach, but start getting, some benefit out of the URA
Yeah, that'd be good.
dollars in that area. But yes, they will be required to either build it or pay into it at a price per foot, lineal foot of frontage,
That could really use that. That would make that area much
right?
safer.
Mhm.
And that's an important thing to remember with the West Side Pump Station. We had a rezone that went on with that property from public facility to multifamily. Obviously, an increase of water use and wastewater use. And so we were able to get and negotiated, well, we calculated what the impact would be as far as EDUs and what that would cost for the pump station and how many EDUs that pump station is going to serve. And they're making a contribution to that pump station of, I want to say it's about $250,000. So, and that kicks in again when they hit a certain EDU level of number of homes in there. So,
Did you ever hear about the grant application for the multi-use path from Elm down to Peterson Ridge Trail?
We did not get it. We actually didn't get our SCA grant that we applied for a portion of Barkley as well. So we're moving ahead with the Elm Street path.
Mhm.
Jackson just applied for our minor conditional use permit
Mhm.
for the work that's got to happen in the floodplain with the bridge
Mhm.
and the approaches. So we got to get that through land use,
Mhm.
and then we'll continue working on design and get it ready to bid.
So what were
We're
those
moving ahead.
grant sources that you didn't get?
The one for the Elm Street path was the carbon reduction program, which was the same grant source for the EV chargers at East Portal.
Mhm.
And the Parkway one was small cities allotment, which we know about.
Bummer.
Mhm.
And the feedback, sorry, go ahead.
The next round for the SCA grant program is going to be in, I believe, April. And the whole thing with the SCA is you can't reapply if you have the current project already built. It has to be completed before you can reapply. So that short window could take out quite a few applicants because they will still have projects that haven't been completed.
Mm,
So
mhm.
I get some options.
And that program is really, I mean, from what they came back to us and explained to us on why we were not successful was it's meant to fix things that are completely broken. Whether it's pavement degradation, curb and sidewalk issues, you know, there's enough need, and especially in the small cities, to fix like where they really
Real
need
bad.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're not hitting that threshold, I guess, which is good.
Right.
But you know, we've taken advantage of that several times since I've been here, and it's always nice to be able to use.
Okay.
And then it was a bummer on the climate reduction or carbon reduction grant because they reached out to us and encouraged us to apply.
For that specific project.
Yeah. No,
What was their feedback?
We have too much money.
Seriously?
AMI is too high. We struggle with that on getting any kind of federal or state funding.
Mhm.
Or AMI is just too
For a
darn high.
larger and larger percentage of their selection.
It's brutal. We do not compete on that.
Hmm.
So,
Are there any other board member comments?
Mm-mm.
I would just like to thank all of you for bringing the input over this past year on all these big projects. All noted, almost all of them. But yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank
This is
you.
Great.
Yeah.
Appreciate both of you guys, what you do. It makes us, Jackson, you make us look like heroes all the time. It's like you get the board package out. You're very concise. Our meetings are all on time. That's really, thank you very much. So appreciate it.
And we'll make sure we get you connected with your thank you gift that you didn't receive.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
It
Oh,
was a
looking forward
major,
to it.
it was a
Yeah.
major award.
you'll be
Feels
handsomely
really-
rewarded, I'm sure.
All right, if there's nothing else, I move to we adjourn the meeting. Meeting adjourned.
Great. Thank you all.
Okay.